James Harper and the Changes of Laws. The complete series. The Kingdom of Hades was once a land rich in prosperity and beauty, known for its fertile fields, lush forests, and shimmering rivers. Its people thrived under the rule of wise and benevolent kings, each committed to the welfare of their subjects. However, that golden era came to a brutal end when King Zoran, a man whose ambition knew no bounds, seized power by assassinating his father, King Eldrin. King Zoran was a tyrant, cruel and corrupt. His reign marked the beginning of the kingdom's darkest age, a time when greed and terror gripped the land. Under his rule, the once thriving kingdom descended into a nightmare. Taxes were raised to unbearable levels, and the once prosperous towns and villages crumbled as the king's army, now a force of terror, rampaged unchecked. Zoran ruled with an iron fist, assisted by his 5 generals, each as twisted as their master. General Valter, master of the Eastern Blades, was a cold-blooded tactician who led the kingdom's elite infantry. His reputation for merciless slaughter made him feared across the land. General Draken, the scourge of the north, took sadistic pleasure in razing entire villages to the ground, leaving no survivors. His scorched earth campaigns left vast territories in ruins. General Maldus, the poisoner, was a master manipulator who controlled the politics of the court from the shadows, ensuring loyalty to the crown through fear and deceit. General Crastus, the beast of the west. Inch was a brute who crushed rebellions with brute force, using his unrelenting strength to enforce Zoran's rule with an iron fist. General Oder, the Black Sun, commanded the elite cavalry and was known for his tactical brilliance, as well as his cold efficiency in executing any who dared oppose the king. Together, they turned the kingdom's once noble army into a legion of terror, ensuring that any resistance was swiftly and brutally crushed. Villages were destroyed, dissenters executed, and wealth hoarded in the capital while the rest of the kingdom starved. James Harper was born in the peaceful southern village of Alarion, far from the corruption of the capital. His family worked the fertile lands, raising crops and livestock, content in their simple, honest lives. James's early years were marked by innocence and joy until the day the king's greed reached even their remote village. One fateful morning, King Zoran's soldiers, led by General Crastus, arrived in Alarion. The villagers were accused of harboring traitors and withholding taxes. Though these charges were baseless, Crastus, known for his unbridled rage, had come with a singular purpose: to make an example of Alarion. The soldiers tore through the village, burning homes and executing those who dared protest. James watched in horror as his family was hanged before his eyes, their bodies left to rot in the village square. James managed to flee into the woods, escaping the slaughter, but the trauma of that day would haunt him for the rest of his life. Alone, broken, and with nothing left to lose, he was soon captured by Zoran's soldiers and sold into slavery. For years, James toiled in the kingdom's mines, his once strong body reduced to little more than bones and sinew. The work was grueling, the conditions brutal, and the overseers cruel. But while the mines broke many men, they hardened James. Every day of starvation, every lash of the whip fueled his hatred for Zoran and his generals. He vowed that one day he would see them destroyed. Over time, James became something of a leader among the other slaves, organizing secret gatherings where they whispered of rebellion. Yet, for years, those whispers remained just that, until one fateful encounter changed everything. One evening, after completing a backbreaking day in the mines, James stumbled upon a group of cloaked figures in the shadows of the capital, city of Hades. He had been walking the streets in search of food when General Crastus and his soldiers began harassing the common folk, demanding outrageous sums in taxes. Crassus, recognizing James from their past encounter, ordered his men to beat him once again, leaving him broken in an alley. It was then that Wadini al-Khalifa, a tall, sharp-featured man with a scar across his face, approached him. "You have the eyes of a man with nothing left to lose," he said. Wadini, once a nobleman betrayed by Zoran, had formed a rebellion in secret. He led an army of 50,000 mercenaries and outcasts, all of whom shared a common hatred for the king. Wadini saw in James a potential ally, someone who had endured Zoran's cruelty firsthand. He extended his hand and helped James to his feet. "If you seek justice for what they've done, come with me," he said. With little else to live for, James accepted the offer. Wadini led James to the rebels' hidden camp deep in the forest. There, James was introduced to a motley band of warriors, farmers, and ex-soldiers, all united by their shared suffering under Zoran's rule. Over the following weeks, Wadini trained James in the art of warfare, teaching him not only how to fight, but how to lead. Wadini had spent years planning the rebellion, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. He needed someone like James, someone who had known the pain of the common people, to inspire the masses. James, driven by his desire for revenge, was ready to lead the charge. The rebels' first major strike was a daring night raid on a military convoy led by General Odur, the Black Sun. Under the cover of darkness, James and a small group of rebels ambushed the convoy. The battle was fierce, with Wadini's mercenaries clashing with Odur's elite knights. James, fueled by years of anger and pain, fought with a ferocity he had never known. In the midst of the chaos, James confronted General Odur. Their blades clashed under the moonlight. And though Odur was a skilled warrior, James's determination proved stronger. With a final thrust, James drove his sword through Odur's chest, killing him. The remaining soldiers, demoralized by the death of their leader, surrendered. It was a victory that would send shockwaves throughout the kingdom. With the success of the ambush, James became a symbol of hope for the people of Hades. Over the following months, the rebels launched a series of calculated strikes, each one designed to weaken the kingdom's infrastructure and morale. General Volter, master of the Eastern Blades, fell when the rebels lured him into the Eastern Mountains. His famed cavalry was ambushed and slaughtered in a brutal battle, and James himself delivered the final blow. General Draken, the scourge of the North, met a fitting end when his camp was set ablaze by the rebels. Trapped in the inferno, he burned alive, just as he had burned so many villages. General Maldus, the poisoner, was assassinated by one of his own men, a spy turned by Wadini's network. General Crastus, the man responsible for James's suffering, faced the rebel army at the gates of the capital. In a final bloody confrontation, James and Crastus dueled. James, driven by years of rage, killed Crastus in single combat, avenging his family and his village. With the death of his generals, King Zoran's power crumbled. The rebel army, now numbering in the tens of thousands, marched on the capital. Zoran, desperate, donned his armor and led his remaining forces into battle. The fight was chaotic and bloody, but the outcome was inevitable. James, leading the charge, fought his way through the chaos to face Zoran himself. The two men, one a broken king and the other a once enslaved man with nothing left to lose, clashed in a final brutal battle. Zoran fought with the desperation of a man who knew his time had come. But in the end, James's blade found its mark, piercing the king's heart. With Zoran dead and his reign of terror ended, the people of Hades hailed James Harper as their liberator. In a grand ceremony, James was crowned king. Unlike Zoran, James ruled with justice, compassion, and wisdom. He redistributed the wealth hoarded by the corrupt elite, reformed the kingdom's laws, and ensured that the common people were protected. James forged alliances with neighboring kingdoms, Avalon, Nerathia, Eringder, and Calderon, creating a coalition that ensured peace and prosperity for generations to come. James Harper, once a slave, had risen to become the savior of a broken kingdom. His name would be remembered for all time, not only as a king, but as the man who brought justice to the kingdom of Hades.